All right, guys, thank you very much for coming to the summit. Mean that big time. It came to me this morning, the idea how to finish this thing up. So you guys that left early, no problem. Listen to this. I'm going to tie everything together. Okay, so one of the big questions we had from Sean was, what about social skills? And I was thinking about social skills. We were talking about it in the car yesterday, and nothing was making sense. Nothing was feeling solid enough to make a fucking video like that really hit home, where everything, like the underpinnings were. I always think of the earth, right? You got the earth's crust, you got the core, right? The molten lava, then you got the different layers, you got the tectonic plates. If it's not at least down at tectonic plate level, you can't make any changes, or you can't really integrate it. Most advice is always on the surface, right? But to really change things, you got to get down to down to the deep stuff, because that's once you move that stuff, it's very easy to move the surface stuff. Very easy. So social skills, and the reason why that's so important, it's not really social skills we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the art of relating, human relations. And basically men and emotions. So all this stuff together. It's all the same. Okay, so the thing, where to start to think about this is, first thing is everybody here needs it. This is like stuff that there's a reason why we congregate to groups like this. There's a reason why we listen to videos like this. And it's not what you think. Okay, so I'm going to start with some basic stuff. So, do you guys know the still face experiment?
No.
Really? You guys don't know that?
Yeah.
Okay, this is one of the most famous experiments, yeah. So the mother, how would you describe it real quick?
Basically, the mother would not react when the baby would cry out, right? Was that it? It would just no emotion?
Right.
Or just no emotion to whatever the baby was doing, and then they would kind of freak out momentarily. Yeah.
Right. So it's a very
the baby did not get the feedback they were expecting, so it would, like, really weirded out.
Right. So it's a fundamental. That baby experiment is something that you can do with your friends. You can do it with a dog. You can do it with any living thing, and you will see how real this is. Okay. So what it is the mother, when you interact with a baby. And understanding this will help you in every area of your life, literally. Business, it'll help you picking up women, it'll help you with friends, it'll help you with getting partners for business, it's going to help you with your brother, it's going to help you with your parents. I mean, this is a fundamental thing that is so invisible to some people. And there's a reason why it's invisible, by the way. Okay, so the mother and the baby will, if you look at the interaction, it's important to break it down into like the specifics of what's actually happening. So I got to get into the details, right? So if you look at a baby, let's say an infant will look at the mother and make a facial expression. And then the mother, without realizing it, in a microsecond, will kind of mirror that, whatever that is the baby is expressing. And then the baby will like point, and the mother will just momentarily kind of look in the direction that the baby's pointing in. And the baby will make a noise and say, it could be a different kind of noise. It could be a noise of surprise. So like something, the baby is alarmed or something. And of course, nothing could be going wrong, but just something happened that the baby is somehow worried about. And so it's like kind of like, oh, and then the mother will kind of go, will in so subtly, in 100th of a second, will respond to the reaction that the baby had. And now the mother also is interacting with the baby. So the mother's not just mirroring the baby. The mother is also kind of doing the same thing to the baby. So the mother might smile at something, and then the baby smiles. And the mother might look over, and then the baby looks over. So when you see that interaction, it's important to know, one is that this is living things. Okay, this is not men and women. It's not children and adults. This is living things, right? So this is us today, right? So this is how we go about the world, right? So when you when you and this is what creates a lot of problems in people's lives is the misunderstanding or the lack of understanding, the tone deafness to this fundamental part of your being and fundamental part of your success in life and relations with other people, and also misunderstanding of things and misunderstandings of these type of things, right? So okay, sorry, the air conditioner got me thinking about. Okay, so let me that totally threw me off. Okay. Okay, so let's go. So okay, so the thing is a lot of reason why guys come to these things when people. Okay, let me start back here. The baby was very in distress when the mother did the still face. Okay, so the mother looked at the baby and just had no emotion, and the baby pointed, and the mother didn't look, and the baby laughed. And the mother did. So basically, the baby went through all of its bag of tricks to get the mother's attention. Just one after the other. Everything that babies do. And then it ran out. The mother was just still faced. Now she only did this for like a minute or two, so it wasn't like damaging to the baby. So just it's important to know, right? When you test things. So anyway, she was. Then the baby started to get worried. So then the baby made a noise like a scared feeling. And then the mother just looked at the baby, and then the baby's back started to, like physically started to react, like this, and then the mother, eventually she reacted again, and as soon as she came back, essentially, the second she came back, the baby was right back in like happy again, and like pointing and doing all the things that babies and mothers do. Right, and babies and fathers, and babies, and everybody does, right? Adults, men and men. Okay, so what we learned from the still face experiment is one is like it's the interlocking web, it's the connection of the closeness and farness, it's the expression on the face, it's the mirroring of things, it's the letting people know, I'm here, are you here? I'm here, are you here? I'm here. Now, this is what we're doing when we're communicating. We're like, are you still here? Are you still my friend? Are you still here? Yes. Are you having a good time? Are you worried? This is what we do all the time, 1,000,000 times a minute as human beings. And we don't even realize it. But this is what we're always doing. Now, what happens when you have a emotionally non-responsive person? Okay, so if you're raised by a person who has an emotional a problem. So like it could be, you could call it there's a lot of definitions for this, but it doesn't matter at this moment. Anybody who this system is broken, okay, they don't have it. They don't some people either are born with no natural, emotions don't hold them back, or they don't basically have emotions. There's a percentage of people in the world, and that's basically what we call a psychopath. But they don't have emotions. They don't feel emotions. So when they look at you, they wonder why you get so attached to your Mustang. They're just like, that's so dumb, And then they wonder why people marry each other, because there's always other people to meet. There's no reason to be attached to one person when you could have, So a psychopath, man or woman, don't have emotions, essentially. Basically born without emotions. It can be beaten out of them and all that. I won't go too much into it. There's different levels of emotional disorders, right? But when you are raised, how you are raised is basically forms your emotional, the health of your emotional body. So a lot of people here, I can tell you right now, have been either in a situation or raised by somebody where emotions were not healthy, were not mirrored back to you. And so what happens is as a sensitive being like that baby, we are that baby, is what happens is you become, there's different ways you can go. Okay, there's different ways you can go. One way you can go when you don't get mirrored back that emotion is, of course, you're like that baby, like you're in pain, physical pain within 2 minutes. This is not theory. You can do this with your dog. Just do it with your dog. Just be playing with your dog, playing ball in the park, and then just still face. And he'll start barking at you after about 5 seconds and growling because it's so painful. for not humans, but living things to not have that, And so what happens when you are raised with somebody, or when you're the person that you attach to is your caregiver. So it doesn't matter if it's mother or father, whoever's your primary caregiver, that's the person you primarily learn this from. And then your secondary caregiver, you learn, these are the people who teach you while you're going through the development as a child and as an infant. They're teaching you that you exist, that you are important, that your feelings matter. So, and that the other people are there for you, and that the world is a safe place. So that is way more important than violence in the area for mental health. When it's just like it's been proven a million times, but like, just for example, the children in World War II in London, they wanted to protect the children during the bombing of London, and they took the children away from their parents and put them in the countryside where there was no bombs. And then other children, for whatever reason, they weren't able to get them, and they were left with their parents while their houses were getting bombed, and it was like a horrific, the bombing of London was terrible, right? The children that stayed with their parents were much more healthy after the war, even though they were in the middle of the bombing, than the other ones who were in the countryside with flowers and total safety, right? Because they felt safe, they were safe with their parents, right? Away from the parents, away from that emotional bond, away from that primary caregiver is extreme distress for a child. So more than being killed even. It's like, it doesn't make sense, but it's like true. Like, of course, the child can't understand death, of course. But anyway, the bonding is number one, right, for a child. And so what happens when you're raised by somebody is that with somebody with an emotional problem, what happens is you start to make do. So a child is extremely good at making do. So if let's say that you have two parents or three parents or whatever, you have three, a caregiver, three caregivers. You might have an older brother or something, and a mother and father. There's the three caregivers. So, so you have one person, let's say, who has some problem. Now, if you think in your life, you're going to know when you go home, right, and look at your friends' faces, look at your children's faces, you will start to see this is very heavy stuff. Like immediately you'll start to see the world differently. And you'll see it when you go out and everything. So for example, there's different kinds of still faces. Okay, there's a still face like the mother was doing in the experiment, but that one is too obvious. Okay, so it's good to study to understand, but it doesn't really teach you what you need to know. So what you need to know as an adult is that people fake things, right? But your emotional system is smarter than that faking. So somebody can be very social and friendly to you on the outside, but you just don't feel it, right? That's your emotional system saying they are either faking it or there's some hole in the system. Like there's something wrong. It doesn't mean they're faking it, okay? But it means that something's wrong. So if somebody's raised by an emotionally unavailable person, there's going to be something wrong. They're not faking it when they're not able to kind of be with you. And you think, but they're trying to be friendly. Like they could be like full on, like not liking you. Like you might have a Trump hat on, or you might have a Obama hat on or whatever. And they might not like you from the beginning. So they pretend to like you, or, you might have something that they don't like, whatever it is, a French flag, it doesn't matter. It's just like something that immediately they just don't like you. And then they're biased against you, and so they're faking it. They're trying to be above their biases, but they're not, right? They have a bias. So that's one way, is so they could be faking it, or very likely too. And don't immediately think everybody's faking and trying to fuck you over. That's a bad mindset. Usually, I see it as somebody who's damaged. Okay, so they're not quite able. There's some problem. So, for example, I was raised by one person who was emotionally unavailable. And so what do children do when that happens? What children do is they make do. So children are amazing at this. They're amazing at saying, okay, you never get over it, because what happens is you become used to it. So somebody avoiding you, somebody ignoring you, your back going up as an infant from that age, is like, that is extreme pain for you. And so you become used to the pain. You just become used to it. Like I just like when I get in a fight, like people punch me. I got punched as a kid a lot. It doesn't bother me. Like unless it knocks me out, it even just fires me up. I just become like more, because I just got so used to it. It's like whatever. Go at it. Hit me with 2x4. Do it again. Because I got used to ignoring the pain, right? But that's not healthy. I mean, it's a defense mechanism that can be very valuable, but at the same time, defense mechanisms in the end will get you. That's why you have to go past that. What most people do is they reach the limit of their defense mechanisms, and that's when they need help. And it's real difficult because the defense mechanisms is what got them to the point they are now. But to get to the next point, those defense mechanisms are pulling them back, right? So for me, like I get real proud of the fact that I survived this, survived that. But it's like, I want to have a better life? If I do, I have to realize those defense mechanisms were essentially childish and I don't need them today. Like I need to get away from them, right? Like I'm not in a situation where things are going on. I'm not being attacked. It's a safe environment here. Nobody's doing anything. You know what I mean? So I need to, so for myself, and I know for everybody, you have a defense mechanism. So when somebody ignores you as a child, you learn to deal with the pain. You just learn to, you're just going to, like you look at their face, there's no emotion, and you feel sadness and you feel frustration or whatever, but you're like, okay, that's kind of what happens with humans, right? Now the problem is when you do that, when you get used to avoiding the feeling, is what will happen is the next step is bad, because now your brain, because you've never thought about this before, right? So your brain it's just going on autopilot. And so what happens is then when you choose a mate, when they ignore you, you just ramp it up. Like they're ignoring you, so you just like ramp it up, like more emotion, more of this, because you're used to it. Like you ignore how you feel about this thing, if they're ignoring you, and you're just ramp it up and get them. And then finally, there's a point where they finally kind of come to, right? Usually most people, even if they don't feel it, they'll realize you're trying to do it, and they'll say, if I don't, like, let's say somebody isn't in the mood to do it, or isn't in the mood to, they're angry or whatever, there could be various things going on in their mind, and they don't interact with you, but they see that you're like now ramping it up, like the child is throwing out all their different tools. And then the other person's like, this is like instinctive in a hundredth of a second. You realize like, oh, okay, I'm just going to do it with them for a second. I'm going to mirror with them. I'm going to do that. Let's go close. Let's go forward. Let's pull away. Let's go close. This kind of, I like you. You like me. I'm still here. I'm listening. And so that's why when you're on the phone with the baby, it's like terrible. Now, from your perspective, you're just checking your messages, but for the baby, they're feeling something, right? So you're ignoring them, right? They're not important. There's a lot of messages that become ingrained in the child. And so the problem is, if it's terrible, because if you are raised by somebody who's not healthy, you will develop defense mechanisms, become used to things, and then they will become common, and you will choose, it's almost like comfortable. You'll choose somebody who ignores you, right? You'll actually choose a person who ignores you sometimes, and you'll just think that's the way it is, like in your subconscious. It's just like, that's the way people are. They sometimes, and that's not the way it is. That's very terrible, right? But just that you're used to it. Kind of like if you're in a crime area, it's an area with a lot of crime. You're like, hey, just get used to it, no problem. You're like, the guy is trying to tell you this is unhealthy and retarded to live in a place like this. But you're just like, you pussy, The thing is you've become used to something that's very unhealthy, and you should be actually reacting to and say, wait a second, why do I live here of all places? Why am I choosing to live in a place that I could be killed for, or I could be injured, or my child? Or why would I want to be with 3 locks on my door? So you start to get used to it, and this is normal. So it's very dangerous. Whereas like normal people will go to an area that feels terrible, and they'll say, this just doesn't feel right. Like Centerton feels right, like it feels very safe here. It's like Americana big time, really nice feeling around here, and I immediately saw it when I got here, and I like that. See, because I lived in Japan for a long time, and Japan is very safe. So like when I left, not that where I grew up was, I grew up in many places, and some were, they were dangerous in various ways, not exactly crime. It wasn't inner city. I never lived at home in the U.S., really in the inner city, but they were dangerous in other ways, and not that safe feeling you have here, right? And so in Japan, I got that safe feeling. Now I won't put up with it. Like, I don't want to live in a place that feels dangerous, that there's gun violence and stuff. I don't want to live there. There's no point. I can get used to it, of course. No problem. I can get used to, like, I ignore things like infection on my leg. I can ignore all kinds of stuff if I want to. But you only do that if you have to. If you're in a concentration camp, prison camp, you have to. This is a skill that's very important. And if you're raised in somebody emotionally unavailable, that's what you did. You were raised in some kind of prison camp, right? For your emotions. Very, very painful. And you don't remember because you were too young. And so now you're an adult thinking, oh, I'm an adult now, forget childhood. Doesn't matter. It does matter because that's what formed you. And now to change, it's quite difficult, but at least once we start to see it, you will begin to be aware of this in yourself, in other people, in the people you choose, in people out in the world. So when Sean asked about social skills, there was a lot of people saying things about it, and I just knew none of them were right. I knew that this is not the question being asked at all. And so so let's go into emotional. Let me think more about emotional development here. Let me think here. Any questions? Just throw them out because I have a little bit of a pause here in my brain. The guys, a lot of guys. Okay, if you find yourself, okay, there's a lot of ways you can find out who you are. Okay, I can tell you right now, like Steve, you have no emotion on your face, but that pisses people off, big time when they come up to you because there's no emotion. Your face always looks exactly the same.
Radiate fuck off energy.
Well, no, you're not listening. It's not fuck off energy. It's no emotion. That's different. Fuck off energy is much better. Fuck off energy is like angry. That's an emotion. So when you're interacting with somebody with emotion,
it's almost more intimidating.
It's not intimidating. It's like this kind of, I mean, think about it because you experience it, so you'll know what it is if you really think about it. But it's something that makes people not want to be around you. And so because when they're coming up to you as a friend, like they do something with you, for you, and then your face is just the same, and it's like not logical. These are things, and I think men need to understand that. I don't know if I think everybody here is way past this, but there's a lot of people who have these like ridiculous ideas about life that they are logical, and other people are not logical, right? And now most of your brain is your emotional brain, and your most deepest brain is your reactionary brain, like a lizard. That's not emotional or logical. It's instinctual. So that's when the baseball comes your face, you stop it. That's not logic. That's instinct. Okay? Like emotion. Yeah. It's very, very instant. And that's what saves your life. This is probably your most important brain, is just staying at the stem on top of the spinal column, right? And then the next one that developed was the emotional brain. And that's what guides most of your life. Then finally, what developed the latest was the prefrontal cortex, which is your logical brain. But also it's more other things like music and all kinds of stuff in there. It's not just logic, but your brain is mainly not logic, even just point blank. Just the way, your heart is not operating by logic. Your heart is running by your instinct, by your primitive brain, by the core, I forget the name of it, but basically the core, the reptilian brain. Yeah, no, that's the one up here. It's the reptilian brain, right? So that's what keeps your heart going, keeps your blood pressure at the right pressure, and all this stuff is not logic at all. It's important, like it's not logic. Your heart, the thing that keeps you alive, it's not logic. Just knowing that you're alive, not because of logic. Yeah, okay. And next thing is your human interactions, which is your number one either cause of your failure or success in life is based on your emotional brain. Okay, so human interaction is emotional brain. And your emotional brain is controlling a lot of your life. And it's not, the emotional brain is not what people think. It's not like women have emotional brains and men have logical brains. I cannot tell you how misleading or misunderstanding of human beings. And this is the fundamental thing you have to, like, if you want to fucking have a good life, you need to see life as it is. I mean, just look at your dog, look at something, look at any living thing. You'll realize that there's more to life than this dichotomy of 100% computer person and 100% emotion run person. This is like insanity. This is, fuck, I want to just stop this. Like, I see people like, it's total. And meanwhile, the person says it is angry and frustrated, and that's all emotion. They're absolutely, the person who says they're logical is a pressure cooker of emotion. That's the thing. They're the ones who are the most emotional. Pure emotion they're running on. Just saying like, they're logical, they're this, that's all emotion. That's why they're animated, right? So it's in total insanity, right? So just get it out of your mind totally. Start to understand yourself and human relations as what they are, and also any animal relations. Because you can always bring it back to a dog. A dog is a great tester for you for various things. And you can see yourself in other animals. And that's how, like, obviously a lot of scientists, they see things in animals and then they test it in humans to see if it's real. And usually, often there's a connection, right? So with dogs, just do the still face. Just do it with it. Just once you're playing with the dog, he's all excited, you're throwing the thing, then just stop. And it's very complex. And the interaction of you and other people, no matter how damaged you are, is so incredibly complex. But understanding that complexity will help you in many, many ways. So I talked about this once in the Men and Emotions video, which I took down because I just didn't feel like it was right yet, about a year ago or 2 years ago. Gabe's the only guy who heard it because I sent it to him. But if you watch, the way to watch this is one good way. There's many ways. There's a million things. But just as you go about life, just watch a child playing with their parent in the park with a ball. That's a great way to see it. So it seems very easy. It's very simple. Now, for a very healthy person, emotionally, it is simple. But there's a million things they're doing, like riding a bike or something way more complex than riding a bike, racing a car. That you just do it by instinct once you've got it right. So, but you're actually doing a gazillion things at once. So let's just look at it here. I throw the ball to you, and you throw the ball to me. Seems simple, right? But now I'm a child, you're an adult, and you are going to be doing a million things without thinking about it. But one of them you're going to be doing is you're going to think, emotionally healthy adult is going to think, what does this boy, I mean, of course, logically you're not going to think, it's just all in a second, right? But you're going to think, what is he capable of? How tall is he? You're not going to throw the ball up to where like Yao Ming could catch it if he's this tall, because he won't be able to catch it. Right? So you're looking at what he's capable of, and what you want to do when you're playing ball is to throw it at the limit of his ability. Okay, so each thing you're doing is just a little bit hard for him. So if you just throw the ball right to him, he's bored out of his mind, he won't want to play. But if you throw it, like bounce it to him, or if you throw it just out of there a little bit faster than usual, if he's real small, then you might just barely toss it and see if he can, it'll bounce out of his hands, but he's trying, he's coming close, to that thing, right? So that's what you're doing is you're always just, you're teaching him when you're throwing the ball. It's an interaction where you're constantly aware of what he's able to do and how frustrated he is, because also instinctually, if you throw it too many times, that's too difficult for him, he will lose motivation. So you're trying to keep him involved too. You're not just testing him, because if you just keep testing him, he's just going to get frustrated because he's just like, this is too hard, even though he's able to do it, like just at the very limit of his ability. So part of it is also just keeping him motivated, right? And this is human relations, right? So when you think of this kind of thing, when you don't have this, so say for example, the parent drops the ball and starts looking at their phone in the middle of the game, just starts looking at their phone. and doesn't look at the boy, what is the boy going to do? He might like kick around the ball for a while by himself,
Experiment.
bounce it. He might kick it far away, go chase it, come back, and then look at you, and you're still on your phone, no reaction. I think the phone experience is probably better than the still face because it's more real. Like people might actually believe it. You just suddenly start staring at your phone, just ignoring everything, no matter what they do. So finally, the kid might get so angry, might kick the ball at the adult, right? It's like, because that's the back. It's like he's the back bending with the baby. It's like I'm going to try everything here because I need to get his attention, right? I need this. I thought we were doing something. I thought we were friends. I thought we were, So then what will happen is if a parent is abusive, is they will then punish the boy for kicking it at him, right? Not realizing they caused the whole thing. The boy was just having fun, right? So you can often see this with abusive parents. Very easy to see abusive parents when you're out in the world, once you understand all the dynamics. I'm not saying that you want to label everybody, but at the same time, this is not a politically correct podcast. I'm not here to blow smoke up your ass. You can see things in this world. You are an intelligent person. You have the right to see things. You have the right to judge things. You have the right to realize things. And when you have that right, it's a powerful thing. So you want to make sure that it's, you want to do it with wisdom, right? You don't want to just go around and like, that person's this, but also you can often, the more I know about life and understand myself and everything, it is pretty obvious. You can see, and often there'll be 3 kids and there'll be one that's treated differently, right? And that's a type of, often you can see a scapegoat and things like that in a family just by looking at the way that person's treated as opposed to the other children and the way the other children treat that scapegoated child. It's sometimes it's so obvious, it's painful. You're just like, sometimes I'll be in a store and I'll see something and it's just like, I'm just like, oh my God. Like I don't even want to see that because I can't help that kid. Because I know that it's the parent has total, you know what I mean? Like you can't do anything about it. So it is sad when you understand life in a way, because you will start to see things in your world. And you might see somebody close to you with a child, and you might see something going on that is like going to have a terrible effect on them. But there's nothing you can do. But what you can do is you can improve yourself. And also, so the tendency is let's go back to Steve. So you got no emotion on your face, pretty much ever, right? So when I say something, you've always got the same expression. And so when I can tell you how I feel, like because we met on the phone, we would call each other, with unblackmailable. So yeah, so I would hear you. Now in your voice, you have more emotion, but less in the face. So there's different aspects of you, of a man. You have different parts of you. But on the phone, you have much more emotion than your face. So on the phone, I didn't get it so much. But as soon as I met you, immediately it was like, whoa, this is unusual. Like, this is really unusual. And I was like, and the thing is, as a person interacting with you, my first reaction, okay, just like the baby does not think logically about things. And when it comes to this stuff, we don't think like logically. We immediately think of what does this interaction mean? So the assumption that we usually have is that they don't like us. Because it's not the assumption is that they have a problem. The assumption is they don't like us because we assume that people we meet are pretty normal and healthy. And so that they're, with other people they're nice, but with us they're not. Right? So they're not giving us interaction because they don't like us, or they're not happy with us, or something's frustrated we've done, or whatever. There's a feeling of immediately like, shit, what did I do? Why is this person, what happened here? Like why is this person ignoring me? Why is this person not giving me that normal interaction that people give me, right? And so people will not like you if you've been abused or if you've been ignored as a child, and then you're damaged, and then you go through the world, and then you always have problems when you meet new people, and you think that the world's not a safe place, and you think that people are doing stuff to you. It's actually you're doing it, right? So part of getting better is accepting the incredible pain of knowing that you've been programmed wrong. Okay, this is what often happens with people. Now, not everybody listening to this is exactly the same, but we've all got a little 1%, 2%. The thing is no parent is completely healthy either. Like there's no perfect parent, right? So that's the thing. It's a sliding scale, right? You just deal with what you deal with in life. Okay, so you just make do. You're tall, you're short, you're whatever. You just whatever. You have to make do with it, right? So the thing is, as an adult, is you can get so far by saying, I like being a victim. Now, I got to be really honest here. Being a victim when you have been victimized, it is very important to realize that there are times when you have been unfairly treated and it was totally fucked up. There is nothing wrong with it. In fact, it's very healthy to realize that somebody treated you very unfairly when you were weak. Because if you don't realize that, what the fuck are you going to realize? If somebody fucked you over, you got fucked over, okay? That's it, right? And it's the same when you become a parent or when you become a teacher. You'll realize that some of the students you just don't like. Like I had 500 students at once, and there was always a couple. They was just like something in the personality just didn't click with them for whatever reason, There was always a couple people. And of course, you do your best to cover it up, but it's like, I'm sure if you have kids, it can be like that. You can have one type of kid who just, there's personality clashes and there's all this other stuff that goes on too. So like this can all be all intertwined. But essentially, you're an adult now, okay? So once you're aware of something, it's your responsibility to change it. Because if you can't, like, not that it just happens instantly either, but let's just say this dumb example. Let's say that your mom's a heroin addict and then she gives you heroin when you're little or whatever. And it wasn't your fault. You just she gave you heroin. You're like, what is this? Okay, mom, thank you, and then I feel better. And then you realize you're heroin, right? Now, of course, you can say that was totally wrong. She shouldn't have done that, blah, blah, blah. But there's a point as an adult where, and this is the thing, it's not black and white, where you realize that something that happened to you was absolutely fucking wrong, okay? And you grieve over the life you could have had, okay? There's a stage of acceptance and change, okay? So one of the stages is realizing that was completely fucked up and just crying about it or being sad about it. Like, I could have done this. I was like, ready to go on this stuff, and it just wasn't fucking there, and my life took a turn that shouldn't have taken. It's completely fucked. That should not have happened. And this is how it affected me. Okay, that right there is fine. In fact, that is important, because if you don't accept, as soon as you're a parent or teacher, what I was saying with the teacher stuff is you'll realize that you don't always treat everybody fairly either. So you realize it's not like some evil people doing this. You are also a flawed human being. So you will also treat other people not perfectly right for whatever fucking unfair, illogical, emotional reason. That's what I was saying with the teacher thing. Anyway, once you understand that and you accept it and you move through that phase of kind of accepting, I think of it as what you could have been, because if you would have been emotionally healthy, obviously you might have found a healthy relationship. You might have, it's possible, very possible actually. A lot of when you have problems, you assume that everybody has, you know what I mean? Like there is a whole nother world that you don't even, it's like the Alice in Wonderland. There's like a whole nother world you could have been in that you're not in. And when you see other people in this world, one of the reasons why everybody will just paint everybody as miserable is because they don't want to see and grieve the fact that they're not, that something happened. Is that they could have been something else. There are happy people out there doing stuff. And like the envy and sadness that you can feel is very healthy and normal. Envy, sadness, these are very normal emotions. And you need to go through them. But then once you're through them and you understand, you say, okay, now I'm an adult and I have this problem. And I am basically creating my own problems at this point. And here's the worst thing. If you continue and you have a child, you will do exactly what happened to you to them now, because you have this problem now. And so you're going to pass it on, and they will hate you because they will not understand that it happened to you. Just like you don't understand that it happened to them. they're going to say that my fucking dad was the worst, and then, and meanwhile, you're like, I'm like a human being who went through things like I got here for, that exactly like your parents, right? So, and you can see it when it happens to you, when you realize you're not perfect. Like when I had those 500 students, and even though they were all girls, even though they were great, I really enjoyed the job. It was fucking great. There was always a couple. I don't even know what it was. It was just like, there was always a couple out of 500. They were just really hard for me to kind of deal with. And if you ever taught big classes, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's like a difficult thing. It's like when you teach, because you're trying to, you're not just sitting there talking to them. You're trying to get them to another level of learning. So you're not just talking at them like a movie. They have to improve their scores. They have to integrate what you're telling them in order to succeed. And it's like they're not doing it, right? And they're not doing it because of you, right? So it's like super hard it's really one of the most challenging things, I think, this type of interaction is very good for you. I think my experience with teaching when I was in my 20s was really great because I learned about myself a lot because I taught everything from kindergarten. I did a kindergarten on Thursdays, just Thursdays only. Oh no, I had another kindergarten. I had 2 kindergartens. I had high schools, and I taught, of course, business, and I also taught at college level. And so I got to see different types of people, and I always had, challenging people that were always like there, that challenged me, and also they mirrored back to me a lot of my flaws. They might say like. You always just look at the front row or something, like I don't even think about it, but you just kind of tend to, like the people right here I tend to look at, and then like you realize, oh, there's people in the back, and then you start to realize you have to like methodically, your brain it happens automatically after a while, but you just look at everybody, you just kind of like, okay, is everybody still here? You're just kind of like, your eyes are just like, and I do that naturally now, right? So, but I didn't before. I had no idea. Because I was like in my idea. I'm like presenting an idea. I'm just like the idea. And the idea was good. There's nothing wrong with that. But I didn't have that. So now I can work a big group and I can look at everybody and I can see if they're still with me. So it's essentially the same as the mother and the baby, but it's on another level. And then as you speak, for example, just talking about public speaking, but as you speak at bigger and bigger groups, I've spoken at big groups and I've been on TV a lot. And I can tell you this, that when the group gets real big, what happens is, it's very interesting actually. It's very different than speaking to one person. When you're speaking to a group of, say, a large group, it becomes waves of emotion. You can kind of feel this side of the room is fired up for some reason, and you can feel this is not, and you're trying to get this to meld with this, and you can, like, the emotion is the attention, because you don't want them to lose attention, right? You want the group to be learning. And also at the same level. So you're trying to bring everybody up. If you see somebody not paying attention, you might pull them up on stage, have them do something. And like you can do things to change situations. You can actually move people around too. Because where people sit affects things too. Obviously, if they're near the air conditioner or if they're near the door, hearing things outside, there's a lot of things that can change things. With somebody really tall in front of somebody, so you get the short person in front of them. So you learn to kind of deal with. So this is like human emotions, human relations, the art of relating on a higher level, on a not a higher level, but on a mass level. So if you want to be a leader, right, you have to learn the same thing with the baby, but you're doing it with a group. I've never heard that. I just put it together. That's exactly the same thing. And I'm very good at it. I love it. I actually love it. I don't mind. I could speak right now, Super Bowl, no problem. It wouldn't even be a problem at all. In fact, I enjoy it. I really enjoy it. Because the energy of the way that people learn and stuff, it's very interesting. The way that the interactions people have. To me, it's quite interesting. But I know for myself, even though I was around some people who were not emotionally available, but as a child, you make do too. So here's a very, very important thing to understand, is that no matter how damaged your background is, there other people that are perfect or whatever you think are perfect, they are damaged too in other areas. There's like, just imagine there's 100 different factors we're talking about, and including like when you were raised, just anything, violence, and there's 100, like all women in your family. There's a million different things that you could have that formed you as you, but you're not perfect, and neither is anybody else. And so even if you, like I saw in Sean who left, I saw in him, he's very animated, right? He's very animated. And so so that's interesting. He's quite animated. But some people are very animated, but they're in their own world. So they'll be animated, but they're not peeing off people. They're just animated, and they're not there with the person, right? So there's that too. So the whole thing with the baby, the infant, the mother is not fake. She is not just smiling and being weird. She is interacting with the other living being. And this is the art of relations. It's the art of understanding where people are, letting them know, hey, I'm here. Are you here? Are we still listening? Are we awake? Yeah. Are we getting this? And you're doing that in a millisecond, but you're just doing it in a million different ways. You don't even have to do it with your eyes. You can just be doing it in many different ways. So it's being with that person and realizing that you are an amalgamation of many different aspects of yourself. So it's your voice, it's your face, it's your body language, and all this stuff. And this is why a lot of guys, I would say, fail at pickup, is because they don't accept these things. So they'll walk up to somebody, say hi, they'll be bitchy, and they'll say she's a bitch. They won't even understand at all that it's an interaction they just experienced. It's two humans interacting. Okay, it's not one person. It's another person could go up to her and do something different, and she would act differently. Okay, it's a human and human interaction. So if you're having these interactions and you're like, oh, all of them over there are like this, and you are totally kidding yourself. Like, you're absolutely lying to yourself at the deepest level. Because if you were suddenly a woman and you had to deal with men, you would have the exact same fucking thing. You'd be like, he's an asshole, he's an asshole. It doesn't matter. You're not interacting. You're not able to be there in the moment. So, like, that's the thing about talking to people. It's not about any particular word. It's about, and I've actually never heard this connection, but this is what it's all about. It's the same as the baby and the infant on very infinitesimal small levels, is that they are aware that you are there. And see, what happens is people will say, what did you say? Oh, it's because he has money. It's because this. It's because they're always trying to look for reason. Everyone's trying to logically figure out, this is not logical. This is a human relation. It's the art of relating, right? And it's probably I'd have to say it's probably your most important skill in society. Now, if you live alone, let's say you live like on a mountaintop or something, then probably your most important skill is going to be planning, planting, seasons, weather protection and things like that. But if you're buying things at the store and you know what I mean, you're like living, you have a driving car, you're buying gasoline from somebody else who buys it, who buys it in the refinery, who gets it from. If you're in this kind of system of the world, then you're having to. This is probably your most important skill, because it will teach. Let me tell you how important it is. And most people, I would have to say most people are totally in denial about this, but. Let's just give you one example that's just so deep. To me, it's just so deep. I always think of it. Is they did a study of doctors that were sued, okay? And they asked, it was a very good study because they didn't give away what they were asking. They just asked people, so what happened? Did you get injured? What happened? And then they said, oh yeah, this happened. And what they found was really interesting, is that if the patient liked the doctor, regardless of the treatment, they would not sue the doctor. Okay, so the doctor, you think getting sued, if you're getting sued all the time, and you might think, oh, these people were asked, and other people never get sued. Okay, I've never been sued, right? So if you're getting sued, this is the type of thing. This is where you have to say, wake up, say, wait, what the fuck's going on here? Because what will happen is that the person, let's say they had a serious debilitating problem. It was a malpractice, big time. And what they found in the study was interesting, is they would not sue the doctor, but they would sue the hospital, and they would sue the city and the insurance company. Anybody except the doctor, right? But if they didn't like the doctor, they would always sue the doctor first, and real hard. They would come in hard on the doctor. So the way that you as an adult take responsibility and grow and learn from this will affect your pocketbook, both creating money and taking money away. And it affects every fucking moment of your life. Like the baby, 5 seconds, the baby's like totally losing his mind, So it affects people around you, and you're going out there totally unaware that you are basically, I don't even want to put words on it, but because it depends on what your particular, blind spot is. But whatever it is, it's like, some people are just very with you. You're just with them, and they're there, And I would have to say, chime time's like that. He's just with you. He's just sitting there and he looks at you. Just when he comes, hopefully he doesn't hear this, yet. But he'll just look at his face. He'll just look at you, he'll smile, he'll interact, he'll listen to you, he'll make a comment based on what you said, right? Instead of somebody else will you'll tell them something and they'll be like, that reminds me of a story. And I'm going to tell you this really long story and you're going to listen to it because I listened to yours. And total inability.
It's my turn.
Exactly. A total inability, like the baby. But again, to throw away all the things you thought about it before. Go back to the baby. Because that is the fundamental thing you want to understand about how to become a better, emotional, better, art of relating. Is you are like that baby. It's in a moment. It's like this. It's just like, hey, what are you doing? Do you want to go? And then I'm looking, I'm seeing. And people often say, how did you know? How did you know that guy's like this? How did you know that person was angry? How did you know? And they're like, I couldn't see it. I didn't know. And they assume that it's impossible to know or that you're lying, right? Actually, it's just being aware. It's being aware of these type of things. So if you have, and this is what often happens with guys. For example, when guys get divorced, often they will say, I don't know why she left. Everything was fine, And now, of course, the women will say, that's why I left. Because he thinks everything's fine. He didn't see it. Now, granted, women will, and men also can lie and abuse things. And it's not necessarily, if she says it's true, but it often it is the case. It started with a lack of listening and understanding and being in that moment. And again, that could be a reason. The reason could be because you were fucked over as a kid, which is 100 times worse than in a marriage. Because that's like basically human rights abuse, if you ask me. It's full on terrible to do that to a child. To an adult, it doesn't damage them as much because their brain's not developing. If your brain is developing, you are having to adapt. It's not just a defense mechanism. It's actually a brain development, malfunction. And it causes a lot of problems, not just one defensive thing. Actually, the brain actually develops in a different way. That's why children are if a child is raised, and this has happened, in an environment where they don't speak, whether they're chained up or whatever, they really never learn to speak. And if a child is born, like there's been children who they had their eyes taped shut or whatever, and then they undid it, their eyes are fine, but the ability to see is so complex that you cannot develop it in adulthood, actually. They'll never be able to really see. I know it sounds really weird, but if you read the studies, you'll be like, what the fuck? My eyes are like that? Your eyes are like that. You're learning from when you're an infant how to see things. What is sight? What is speed? What is it? Children, that when they take them off as adults, they're just like, you would think, right? They're fucking eyes, right? Of course they're going to work. This is how complex we are. So the understanding your emotions is understanding the incredible complexity of what you are as a living, intelligent being. Not what you think you are, not your political thing, not any of this stuff, not what, it's like you're incredibly complex. And even the things now, there's a million things you don't know about yourself. But by knowing that you're a complex being, that you don't know everything, that puts you in a humble state where you can actually say, okay, maybe there's something I'm not getting here. Maybe I'm not, And so I would say to anybody here, if you want to improve your social skills, it's not about any of this other stuff. This is the heart of relating to people. It is the heart. It is the cause of a lot of your problems. It's a cause of a lot of the frustration in life. It's a cause of development issues. It's a cause of, all kinds of shit. And it's so simple once you get it, because fundamentally, as a human, as an intelligent living being, it's in you. This is stuff that it does. Even if you have development problems, or you went, something happened, whatever, it's in you. It's in you. And that's the thing about babies is like, if you have, I was going to say earlier, if you have say you have one parent who's emotionally unavailable, the baby will bond with the neighbor, right? The baby needs to get some kind of nutrition, right? And nutrients. And this is emotional nutrients. The baby will get it from anywhere. So the baby will be very bonded to their teachers, to their friends. Now, an abusive parent will see that and be very angry about that and try to break those bonds, right? Because there's no limit to how evil somebody can be when they're a psychopath, because they see these emotions very clearly because they don't have them. They see them as a weakness, and they want to take advantage. And this could be a man or a woman. It's especially devastating on a woman because of all of the things that you think about, because of the fundamental nature of humans and the way women, their role in society and the way they interact with each other, that you just assume a lot of things about them, even today. And when they don't have emotions, it's utterly confusing. You're like, if you're a normal, healthy person, it's just like almost unbelievable. You can't even, it's like the same thing about the eye. Like, you can't believe how complex it is. It's beyond your understanding. And that's important to understand. A lot of stuff is beyond your understanding. So just know that if you want to improve your social skills, if you want to improve your life, I would say that probably the most important thing you can do is start to understand this stuff and understand yourself. And if you have problems, to not blame it on other people, and to realize at some point, not today, but at some point, to realize that you're an adult now and it's time to fix this thing, because you're doing it to everybody else. It happened to them too. And at some point in your life, you have to say, wait a second, I no longer want to abuse all my friends and family and blame it on them anymore. Or women. I'm just talking about emotional. I'm not talking about anything serious. I'm talking about this same with the baby. Because the reason why it's not that serious is they'll leave you, so don't worry about it. They're just going to be out of there. The problem with a child is they're stuck with you, But whereas a friend can just quickly leave, if they don't like, if you suddenly are, turning off. So you can't really hurt them that much. Even a wife, she's just going to get out of there. And, a husband will leave, So, but you're the one that's really the hurt from this stuff. You're the one that's left, and then it just becomes more and more isolating as you subconsciously see that this causes a lot of trouble, and then you just basically start to drift away, give up. That's what people do. They start to just give up on everything, give up on friends, give up on relationships, give up on affection. And they just don't have it anymore. And it's so fucking simple, man. It's so simple. I can tell you yesterday it was just reminded of me yesterday, because we went on that hike, and then we saw these girls, and there was this the Asian girl with the braids, right? She was probably like 25, the college student or whatever, just after that. And I saw her, I'm like, I like her. And then she walked by us, but they were with all these guys. So she didn't even look at us, right? But I came up to the car again, and then you guys were just behind the car, and I went up to them, and there was another one with her. I'd never seen the other one, but she was there, and I now looking back, she said something, and I was on the phone actually. I was on the phone with setting up the camping for tomorrow night, but I said, just a second, Robert, and I talked to her, and her face is lit up because I was doing this, and then it was like this baby child, two human beings. I'm in the middle of something, but I realize this is more important. She's asking me something right here. This guy can wait. We can both wait, And he was actually interested because this guy is very good with people. So he knew what I was doing. I almost just said, hey, you want to say hi? Brought him into the whole thing. Yeah, that's what I would usually do with Robert. I'd say, I'd say, hey, say hi to Robert. Say hi. There's two awesome girls here, And then he would have said, hey, girls, what are you doing? That kind of thing. And then we'd have, you should come camping. That's what Robert would have said. 100%. I should have done it. Yeah. But sometimes you're not sure if somebody on the phone can really see what's going on. There's like two cute girls right here standing there. And I didn't realize why they were so friendly. But the thing is, I didn't realize afterwards that there was another girl that was in the car. So it was like three girls. I couldn't see because of the tinting. So it was just three girls. I thought in the tinting there was a bunch of guys in there. But the guys were still back on the trail. So I don't think they were like relations. I don't think it was like they were cheating on anybody. I think they were like friends. There's some kind of group of friends. And of course they don't want to in front of the guy friends are there because they want to sleep with them, right? Of course. Why else would they be there? It's a bunch of Asian guys. They're like, hey, I'll get some here. And so the girls were like, and they were from Houston visiting, so I was talking, and it just all lit up all of a sudden. But then I realized, like all of a sudden, okay, I got to leave tomorrow. I'm out of here. This isn't going anywhere. I'm not going to Houston. And so yeah. So I just like cut it off, and I was like, okay, see ya. And I saw the girl's face. It really, like, she was really, it was just by chance, she was like really into it. And it made me feel good because it just happened like that. Her face just lit up, and she was just like, and then the other one was like, she was cool too. Actually, there was no cock blockers. Both of them. The cock blocker was the tattooed one that was in the car. Yeah, that was the one. But she wasn't there. It was the two of them standing there. And I thought the one was going to be, because she was a little bit reticent. But then once they started talking, I realized she was just, both of them were like in a state where they're looking for something, interaction. You know, when somebody's single or, they're getting ready to make a move, That was the kind of feeling as two girls like, hey, what's going on? What are you guys doing? Because we're like a bunch of guys, right? A bunch of cool guys. People don't realize that, when they think of a summit, they hear people working on things online and they think, oh, these guys must be losing it. But if you see us in person, you're going to see a very different reaction, right? It's a very different reaction. So again, your visual and also your audio and all that's very different, right? So you're not getting a full picture of things until you meet someone. Part of the way I like Summit is you actually are with people for a long time. The guy's sleeping next to you, farting next to you, and you're actually having to force yourself to interact. And everybody that's here, that's stayed here, like you have basically done something essentially great. Because this is not easy, actually. Do you remember when you first came in, like how close it felt? Like, where are we going to sleep? How are we going to, what I mean? There's a lot of guys in the house here, It's like 10 guys, right? 2 bathrooms. The first, when you first get in, you're like, this ain't going to work. I'm not going to be able to deal with this. Something's going to go wrong. And then all of us that are here, we all basically, and almost everybody here has really adapted nicely. And now we're at a different state where we could do it again, or we could do it longer, or whatever. I can feel it. I can feel it. So that's the thing, is you have the skills. You have it inside of you. So if you have a problem, no matter how significant it is, there's always things that you're good at. So like Sean, I realized right away the guy's really smart, and maybe he just needs a group. I was kind of hinting that he needs a group of really smart guys to hang out with. Maybe we're not smart enough. You know what I mean? For him, he needs to be with somebody like to satisfy that part of him, right? It's just some fucking guys that are just as smart as him, or even smarter, and they can like throw out ideas. And then once he gets that, he'll probably realize that that's not everything, and he'll want other groups, But it's like you find, no matter how it might seem hopeless, but actually Sean might be extremely good with another group of really smart guys. He might be extremely comfortable, and that comfort is what makes you see. The thing is, here's how it's so complicated. Is once, it's like the child. Once the child feels safe, okay, then the child interacts more, and there's more. There's like, all this stuff's going on, and the child just lets loose. Basically, the spirit, the human spirit, just like lets loose, right? So what happens is when you start to fix things, your spirit will just like let loose, and you'll start to interact with other people. You might start with one group, right, where you're like all of a sudden comfortable, able to talk, and then all of a sudden you start to realize, damn, I can do this somewhere. I can do this, this works, And so it starts with something simple. So I'll just end on this, but like when people come to 12-step programs, like for example, one of the interesting things, which I never understood until I studied this what I'm talking about now, is they often are so traumatized that they can't really talk to people yet. They can't really, they're not capable. It's not good for them. It won't make things better. Like sometimes they're armed. They're very not trusting. They're not in a place where they're going to interact. So what they often say is make coffee and move and set up the chairs. So these guys, what they do is they don't talk to anybody. They just come in, set up the chairs, get all the chairs right, make the coffee, and then maybe they can eventually talk to the other coffee maker, and then they start to talk to more people. And then eventually they can, 5 years later, they're speaking at a big meeting. It's because you start with sometimes physical things. So if you find yourself extremely not good at this stuff, just do physical things. Or even if you just feel like that's the mood you're in. Like sometimes I'll just go wash dishes or clean clothes. I want clean stuff. I won't even talk to you guys. If I'm in that mode, I realize the physical stuff is always there. And that's part of it too, right? So somebody needs to do it, right? So I just do it, And then it's like, maybe I'm kind of tired, or it's not, there's that moment where you don't have to run away. You just kind of like do something else. So that's what you can do, is like set up the chairs, make the coffee. And you don't have to talk to people. Because you realize what you're doing is something important. You're doing a fundamental part of the beginning of human relations. You're part of the group, right? So and when you do it, you'll feel it. You'll understand this is important. Like, for example, even today we're packing, right? So like some people will just, that's what human relations is. Like some people will avoid helping anybody and they think nobody notices. Some people will, you know what I mean? Like they're conveniently not there every time something needs to be done, right?
Show up after the work's done.
Right. And then,
help.
but there's the exact opposite is even worse or just as bad. Somebody who does all the work and blames everybody else. Like they might not even care. They're not even in a hurry. They don't give a fuck. Everybody's just fine. And there's one person's like the general's like telling everybody like they're not pitching in. They're not. So human relations isn't about one or the other. It's about the art of relating. Okay, it's the art of relating. It's not about moving the furniture. It's not about the chairs. You're learning to be a human and interact with people, right? And you need help, right? How do you improve that? How do you get to the next level? So if you feel yourself uncomfortable and look at yourself, oh yeah, I thought of this last night before I fell asleep. What you could do, which is very valuable, is set up a camera in your house or any place that you're talking to people. And you don't even need to have the audio on. You're just doing it for your own study. But set up your camera. I would recommend don't tell people. Even, of course, legal in your state and construct a lawyer and a, penis extension specialist and everything. But after all that, go ahead and set up a camera and then just have it sitting there. And then when you're just like normal interacting with a friend or with somebody, and then later on go out and watch your face and watch their face. And video is great, especially if you had two videos, one this way, like one at your face, one at his, without them knowing. I'm sure there's a camera with two sides. There must be. Anyway, you could have one camera, you can see enough. But basically start to learn about yourself by watching a video. Like I said, you don't even need audio because it's obvious. You will see things you don't want to see, but you will see the truth. The camera doesn't lie, and it's awesome. So don't rely on your judgment about this stuff. It's like, camera is fucking good, man. And that's what I really like about, I think it's really important about being filmed, doing something, is your vision of what you do and how people react is usually not true. It's usually not at all true. So if you want to look, for example, if you want to learn to be, like I want to get somebody to film me surfing, because I've never gotten good at surfing, even though I surfed my whole life. And I know I just suck, basically. But I'd like to have a film of where I suck at, because I can't see myself from the outside. And it's real frustrating to not be good at something, because usually I'm quite good at sports, But it's like, I know if I saw a film of myself, I would say, oh, that's what I'm doing. Like, oh, damn it, that's what I'm doing. Like, I know that, but I'm doing it again. And I can say, okay, here's my 5 fucking things. Then I can go and get some help and fix those 5 things, right? Because I can see myself from the outside. So you can see yourself, obviously, tennis players, soccer players, anybody who wants to get to the top level, they film them like crazy because you can't see a lot of things in your life. So film yourself in social interactions. And you will see, it will start to, with all this as a background, listen to this over and over, start to get a background. So you'll start to see yourself and look at yourself with a cold eye. And with all the things I talked about, because actually what I said, everything is quite loving, because you can recover, you can improve, you can help your friend, right? This is not just for yourself, is everybody else has it, right? Everybody else, So if you're teaching somebody, if you're doing anything, you're constantly improving yourself and also learning how to, like the boy, you're throwing the ball just a little far. You're challenging them just a little bit. That's what I do with you guys. I see something and I'm just challenging a little bit. I see something weak now, I'm just throwing the ball a little bit. And then you're like, okay, I'll do that. And then it's like, oh, we did that. That was great. And so it's like you get one thing and then you realize You get to the next, you don't even know you did it, but you got to the next level. So when you're on your own, do it for yourself. Take responsibility for your life. Stop blaming it on other people. Stop blaming it on anybody who caused anything. Just realize, okay, now here's the cards. Now, of course, like I said, there are things to deal with, especially if you had serious abuse. There's like really significant grieving and things you need to do, or you won't be able to move on because it is sad. Okay, like if you had a child, right? Oh God, I got a friend like this. I have a friend, and when he was born, he's Nigerian. When he was born, his arm, and he listens to Ronin, man. Yeah, shout out, Shep. But his arm was somehow in a wrong position, and so the when he was just coming out of his mother's womb, and the doctor was a very just terrible doctor and didn't fix it. And so his arm never developed, and so he's got one arm that's just, absolutely, pretty much almost useless. And so now he's trying to get an MMA. So he wants to be an MMA, but he's got one arm. The guy's really going for it. But I think for him, it's difficult. Oof, that would be a tough one to grieve, that one. Fuck. Like his arm, right? You know what I mean? But whatever it is in yourself, just grieve it, realize it's over, realize you have the cards you have, and your cards are pretty damn good. You know what I mean? They're pretty damn good. Like you're here, you're learning, you're doing a lot of things in your life. And all those things are not bad, right? That's the tendency. You tend to think in black and white, but that is totally childish and ridiculous. And you're not going to improve thinking that way. So you've got a lot of good cards that other people don't have. And you've got bad, you've got your thing. So accept the whole thing, work on it. And I'll say that this is the end of the summit. So thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, it's I was Rev, so we're at the end of the summit. We're at the end of the summit, so it's yeah. I mean, I don't really have a whole lot to add to that. I mean, that was fucking awesome what you just said, but
I'll let you guys talk.
Yeah, but
and then hit the button when you're done.
Okay, but yeah, I would just say that yeah, if you're ready for it, come to the summit. Want a summit in the future, and something I was thinking of while Ronin was talking was basically like, I don't know, weird's not the right word or strange, but I guess cool is probably a interesting word for it. But and I'm kind of out of it because I just fucking woke up. Right? But it's interesting that I feel like I've known all the guys that came to the summit for years. So it's like, even though I just met these people a few days ago, that's the feeling I get, and I've had great conversations, and very interesting topics have come up for discussion, just all over the board. Not even red pill MGTOW shit, just life topics, technology, all kinds of really interesting things have come up. So, but it's been really cool. So excuse me, I'm coughing, but. Yeah, it's been awesome, and I would just say, again, I repeat myself a lot, but when you're ready to come to the summit, just do it. Go for it, and if you want to host a summit, I'd say go for it too if you're ready to host one. But that's kind of all I got, really. But appreciate it.
On this topic this is Steve, and on this topic that he was discussing, it's just great just to reflect on these topics and just like pick apart your life and just reflect on your past and see, hey, maybe I did go wrong somewhere, or maybe something was done wrong to me, but hey, this is possibly a way of acknowledging it and moving forward. And between this talk and the positivity talk, even at work, I'll catch myself not being positive. And, it's just great. These talks are very helpful in building, your health up, both physically, but more importantly, it's also more emotional on how you're going to react with other people and just in general in life as it goes by. And, I've really liked the summits, and it's also just a great place just to meet like-minded individuals. And, it's just great and easy to bond with them and things of that nature. And, really big fan, and definitely thank you to Ronin for all he does and putting these together and all that good stuff.
Stingray here. Yes, Summit's been great. I really like that topic that Ronin just spoke about. I guess maybe fortunately or unfortunately, maybe I'm a little too closely related and understand that piece of it. Particularly, actually interesting, the part that I picked up on most, and I've had this a few years ago with the development. I know you said the eyes and whatever, was I really noticed that with music. Because I grew up in a completely musicless household. No record player, no radio, cars with no radio, nothing. Like zero music. And I think I missed the window, whatever it is. Because I really don't listen to music. I mean, I have a few things that I listen to, but if I really look at it, I'm more into maybe like movie soundtracks because I like the movie. And then I'll just be like, okay, I guess I like this music that goes with it. But as far as like me actually enjoying music, I don't really do that. I don't miss it because I never have ever enjoyed it really. But I just don't do it. Or if I did, and even concerts I went to, I had, my close friends were really into a certain band. So I'm like, oh, just go. I am too now. Even though I really don't care either way. And it's interesting because it really does all sound the same. To me, the music sounds very, very similar. So, so I really understood a lot of that topic, maybe fortunately and unfortunately. And as far as the summits go, again, this is my 4th summit. They're fantastic. Highly, highly recommend that. And I think there are like very beneficial aspects to both not the unblackmailable if you want to do one-on-one with Ronin, but I also find the summits, I particularly like kind of the interaction with other people, see where people are, other ideas from everyone else, and then just interacting with other people altogether, which I don't really do, probably spend too much time on my regular life by myself. So I highly, highly recommend going to summits. If you even think about it a little bit, definitely go.
Just to add a little bit to what Ronan was talking about earlier, when you show up to the summit, it is kind of weird. You don't know how you fit in. You don't know what your place is. There's a lot of unknowns. You're like, what's this going to be like? It's hard to explain what this group even is, to try to put it into words. Rev was talking, like all the conversations you have, it kind of melts your brain, one conversation, and there's just one little thing in there that you're like, fuck, what is this thing? And it's somebody shining like a light on something that you either like were ignoring or we're never aware of. It's cool, the topics and stuff that come up, and you may not know what you have to contribute, but these guys can kind of help you. It's like it's unsaid, or like it's subtle. The differences on small things are subtle. Ways these guys think, you can explore some stuff and you can learn more and get to a point where you forget, or if you forgive and you let go of a lot of things that happen, because you gain more of awareness, more of an understanding, and you can let go of a lot of stuff, and work towards finding out what it is that you like and what you want to do. I'm kind of rambling at this point. Yeah. Joel. Yeah, I just woke up too.
Yeah. So, just, a little on the topic. I've seen some comments, but essentially their message, or kind of what they're saying is, I operate off pure logic. I'm a supercomputer. Pure logic here. No emotion at all. Like, don't kid yourself. You're not a computer. You're a human. There's emotion. So, you're a human. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of these guys, I'm a computer. Pure logic. It's like, no. That you're a human. That's just how it is. So.
Signing off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Killing this.
Yeah. Utah, Ozark Summit.
Ozark Summit. Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're out. Y'all have a good one. See you next time.